All right, we are beginning Module 2, which is on rational numbers. And we're going to start with, adding and subtracting, then getting into multiplying or dividing. So Lesson 1 right here is we're just going to start talking about some properties of rational numbers. And we'll talk about what rational numbers are and integers are as we go through. So Lesson 1 is on opposite quantities that combine to make 0. Okay, so here are some thoughts here, little Venn diagram on positive and negative numbers. So go ahead and you can write these in. But negative numbers, okay, when we think of negative numbers, what do we think of? Okay, well, they come to the left side of 0. What is that
Hi
from?
guys, it's Jack here.
Yep, Jack's saying hi, and now he's leaving to go to bed.
Yeah, I'm tired. Then I had to watch NXT of WWE, and now this is gonna get demonetized.
Good night, Jack. Sorry about that. So they're negative numbers and positive numbers both are on the number line. And got to remember that. They're both on the number line here. I was trying to find a different color. But where on the number line? Well, negative numbers are on the left side of 0. They have a negative sign. And some examples. If we say things are below 0 or we're in debt, or if you're below sea level, or you decrease or you drop, or as it says, etc. here, those are all situations that we would use negative numbers to describe. And it's going to be the opposite of a positive. Well, what are positive numbers then? Well, they're on the right side of 0. So again, if we think of a number line, they're on the right side. They don't have a sign. Well, they do. They have a positive sign, but we don't write it. Sorry, I know that was really sloppy. But we recognize this as a positive, but we just don't write it out. We don't write, positive 1, positive 2. Look kind of funny if we did this. We wanted to write numbers. Okay? So we don't do that, but it's there. Okay. Some situations where we talk about positive numbers, well, if we say things are above 0, like temperature, it's above 0. Above sea level, if we don't have a debt, we have a gain or increase or something is higher. And it's the opposite of a negative. So we're going to talk about here this being opposites of positive and negatives, and how we really just try to get a better understanding of negative numbers and positive numbers and the relationship with each other. Okay. All right. So counting up and counting down the number line. It says use the number line below to practice counting up and counting down. Well, if we're going to count up starting at 0, that's going to cause or correspond to, well, if we're going up starting at 0, it's going to correspond to positive numbers. Whereas if we start 0 and we're counting down, so I should say this counting up, and if we're counting down starting at 0, that's going to correspond to negative numbers. Again, things we probably already know, but just trying to keep it fresh in our heads here. So I'm going to come back and use this number line here. But part A says, well, where do you begin when locating a number on the number line? Where is our starting point? Notice we have negative 10 all the way through positive 10, but then we have arrows at the end, means that it keeps going. Well, we should always start at nothing, at the middle number here. We start at 0. Okay? Now, what do you call the distance between a number and 0 on the number line? And hopefully you remember that that's called absolute value. Absolute value. Absolute value is the distance. The distance from 0 on a number line. And because we're not worried what direction it's going, we say it's always positive. You don't ever tell someone to go, a negative 2 miles. You might go give them a direction with it, go 2 miles left or 2 miles east or west, whatever. But we don't ever say, hey, go a negative 2 miles. Okay, so it's always positive. Now, the way we can find absolute value, or what means absolute value, is if we put two long lines around a number. That means find the absolute value. All right, so it says, what is the relationship between 7 and negative 7? Well, let's come back up here to the number line. Well, if we're starting at 0 and I want to go to 7, I am going to move to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units. If I want to go to negative 7 right here, from 0, I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units. Ooh. Okay. So what we can say is a relationship here. We can say both are 7 units away from 0. So if they're both 7 units away from 0, I could say their absolute value is the same. Okay, so if I look at 7 here and I put the long lines around it, that means take the absolute value of 7. Absolute value is the distance from 0. So this basically means how far away from 0 is 7? 7 units. But notice if I want to focus on the negative 7 here, what is the absolute value of negative 7? Well, what is the distance from 0? Or how far away from 0 is negative 7? We already counted it. It's 7 units. Again, absolute value, distance from 0, and always positive. So I could say, another relationship idea here is they have the same absolute value. Well, this kind of goes along with that one. Same distance from 0, which is the same absolute value. Same distance, sorry, this is so sloppy. But opposite directions. And if they're the same distance but in opposite directions, we're going to say, therefore, there's a good word for us, therefore, 7 and negative 7 are called opposites. 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 7 and negative 7 are called opposites because they have the same absolute value, but they're in opposite directions. So these are terms you probably are familiar with, but we need to know what they mean when we say them. Opposite numbers are the same distance from 0 on a number line, but in opposite directions, and they're going to have the same absolute value. And this is going to become important when we start wanting to perform operations like adding and subtracting on positive and negative numbers.